idea of the reflective process involved in creating that video, and that's an artifact that can be revisited many times. So I think there's real value in the documenting, the videoing, the reflection, and the creation of these videos. So then what do they care about? What we do is each year in October we ask the teams to tell us the social issue that they are considering working on. It can change, but we just like to get an idea. And then in March each year they submit a report about their project, and then we categorise them into one of these challenges. Now they're very, there's intersections between all the challenges, but what we found this year, the two, mental health is one every year, and I suppose it's concerning in some ways, but then also the fact that it is being spoken about. Somebody in the audience mentioned that young people are speaking about mental health, and what we find as solutions is often school-based solutions. It could be even something as small as creating a nicer environment for students, the relationships with each other, things like that. But mental health is one that always comes through each year. Physical health as well. Physical health will be quite strong. This year in particular we saw a huge increase in the number of projects about homelessness. So young people are seeing what's happening in the world out there. By far that was the biggest increase from previous years. And then we got lots of different social issues. The environment comes up, making our future more sustainable, different awareness of different diseases that comes up, relationships and sexual health. Last year consent was a very big one. This year not so much, and we notice now, we're not sure exactly why, but Repeal the 8th wasn't one that was focused on, but consent still was there, so we imagine that the conversations are taking place. But maybe, I don't know if it's just that the schools didn't take it on board or they're just that slightly too young, but definitely consent was one from last year onwards. And inequality, also looking out at the global world is also important. So they're just some of the challenges, but as I said, it was homelessness that was up there with mental health this year in the numbers. We find in the last 2 or 3 years, the Sustainable Development Goals and the UN Sustainable Development Goals are great term of reference that young people are speaking from them, that they care about the future, and it's a great starting point to actually discuss different issues. So that's one that is definitely discussed. There's some great resources on the UN's website, videos around the SDGs, but definitely it's a good one as a starting point about speaking about different issues. So then just some of the impact on the communities is not only for the young people themselves that we've seen benefits, but these are just some examples of the good work that young people have done taking part in YSI. So we have different examples. I mentioned about peer education programs, workshops, resources. We've had youth cafes set up, a film festival around mental health, then different things, local issues, particular dangerous roads, that kind of thing. Awareness campaigns, cyber safety. This year it wasn't one that there weren't that many cyber safety ones, but it's definitely one that's spoken about. Body image is spoken about a lot. The impact of social media and body image is still there as an issue for young people. Mental health I mentioned. Human trafficking is a social issue that has come up, and we had some amazing resources created about that. Physical health, obesity. And then things local, we had a project in Tuam a few years ago where it was around cleaning up the town and different things. Murals can be an art project, so different things on a local level. Water conservation, that was using technology. A team this year, actually Colin, who was involved in the school, they used recycled bicycles for water conservation equipment. And then new schools. We had a project about 2 years ago which was around 21st century learning. So the students asked could they take a classroom that actually fitted out in the way in which they want to learn. Their first starting point was a survey with students. They found that their school environment was drab and they wanted to do something about it, and they worked with local businesses to get equipment in. Organ donation a few years ago. If you know the Irish Kidney Association organ donor card, it's actually a drawing on the back. That was the school, Eureka Secondary School in Kells. They actually started a project and they got there. If you go onto the Irish Kidney Association's website, the resource pack is created by the students from Eureka Secondary School. And then, as I said, amenities in local towns and so on. There's lots, I could go on. But But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you an example. This one is quite a very impactful project that it was raising awareness for National Missing Persons Day. So I'll just play this video for you.
Well, Michael McLaughlin was fishing. He was a fisherman, and he was fishing on a boat called the Strathnairn, and he fell overboard on the 9th of June 1987. Despite the efforts of the crew members at the time, his body sadly wasn't recovered. It was the local Gardaí in Donegal. He informed me that this day was taking place and asked me would I like to come along.
It's the one day when the state formally remembers the missing persons, the loved ones of people, these loved ones who just, in many cases, just disappeared.
The students realised that missing people in Ireland, a lot of missing people are forgotten about, their families are forgotten about. So they decided to work on the area of missing people for their YSI project.
During this campaign, we made and sold the Forget Me Not calendar.
We actually held a vigil in our school in I think it was late 2011.
We also had an exit point strategy which targeted airports, ports and ferries in Ireland.
And we lobbied the government for a National Missing Persons Day to be declared.
I invited them to come to the Oireachtas to make a presentation to my colleagues on the Oireachtas Joint Oireachtas Committee. And one of the asks from the students in the school was that we would have a National Missing Persons Day and had an awareness campaign going, Forget Me Not. They came up and they presented to a whole load of TDs and senators. And you know what? They got an applause at the end of it for their presentation. One of the few times I've seen TDs and senators applaud unanimously across the board.
The families of the missing coming up to us, a lot of them we hadn't met, and just thanking us for our work that we put in for the day, and just to see how much it meant to them and how much other people remembering their loved one. That was definitely the best moment in the whole project.
It showed me at a very young age that nothing is out of the realms of possibility for you.
You can make a difference. Our students, they're up on the walls outside, they may know them in the community, and they can say, look, we did make this difference. This big day that we all highlight, this was our students when they were your age.
These students are now in third level, and the legacy that they've left behind them hasn't been forgotten, that they're still being rewarded for the tremendous work and effort and difference that they made back in 2010, 11 and 12.
People go missing, and after a while, I'm not saying they're forgotten about, but life goes on. And I think that it's a lovely, lovely thought from those young people, and I really, really appreciate what they have done and not forgotten.
So they were presented with a special award at our awards this year. I mean, I think empathy comes through in that one. And those, Jackie and Josie, they're in the second or third year of college down in Cork. So, you might have students amongst your midst who have done amazing things in the past. Yeah. So then, I mentioned the 10, so they're the 10 characteristics that we found. I've also then just looked at some research just to see if it aligns with what we feel in our practice. So I just took this, it's GENZ Goes to College. It is based in the States, so they surveyed, I think it was 15 different institutes, and it was about 1,400 students. And what the research was saying is that students like learning that's practical. That fits in exactly what we find. I mean, ours is very practical, project-based work. Facilitated learning, so rather than instruction, facilitation. This one is interesting, independent work that leads to group work, and I'll come to that. We have gotten feedback from our teachers that what works well in a group is actually thinking about their group strengths strengths and talents, and actually then assigning different roles within that group based on strengths. So actually people are working to their strengths. Setting their own pace, yeah. So I know this can be difficult depending on the structure, but students working to their own pace. In the e-learning aspect, I suppose one thing I considered was the kind of synchronous versus asynchronous learning. So if you have a live webinar versus a chance for students to reflect and go in and reflect on something at their own time, I feel there's probably place for both, but just to allow students to work at their own pace. And self-reflection, as I said, we have to act and reflect in our pathway, but that idea of self-reflection, which I'm sure is happening anyway, and then what they don't prefer according to this research, and information dump. So the idea of coming into a lecture and actually just being presented the slides that they could look at in their own time, that they see that time as a chance to connect with their peers and lecture, just group work. And then also, this one again, I probably, to be honest, don't know enough about creative or imaginative processes, that they don't want to start just from imagining. In our experience, what really works for us is scenario based. So say for example with the idea of working with people directly affected by an issue, because we are working with 15 to 18-year-olds, sometimes that's not practical, but you know, we can create scenarios that they work with then, and then I suppose problem-based learning as well. And then this is from the same research. This was just a comparison between millennial and Gen Z, that they are more realistic, Gen Z coming up. The we generation, in the work that we do, we probably do always work with the we aspect anyway, but yes, that they are more socially aware and they are wanting to make a difference to the world around them. That they use Instagram. Emer mentioned earlier today about the sharing. They are more private in the social media that they use. And then that they like just-in-time learning, that they can get it when they need it, that they use YouTube to access what they need to know. And I mentioned about the groups, what I said about the subgroups, creating groups based on strengths. YSI teams are as small as 5 up to a full group, full class group. And I said about, a common vision, perhaps actually identifying what the vision is from the beginning. We've had great experience where it would be students from different classes working across different subjects together and allowing that time for student voice. But actually to identify that working in teams can be challenging. You know, as adults we find it can be challenging. So it's okay to admit that, that it can be challenging. But actually reflecting on that can be useful. Okay, I'll leave that one. This is just something that we look at for inclusion. An empathy map. We do look at a lot of design thinking resources and human-centered design. It can be a really good way of students thinking of other people's perspectives. So this just one is a small kind of snapshot from something that we do. So to consider how someone would think and feel in the situation. I'll leave that one. That was just around fake news. Ofcom have a great report. It's children and parents' media use and attitudes. It's a great part around fake news, that actually they're saying that young people can identify what fake news looks like. I have a whole question around research then. We, for example, suggest that students do surveys, but we know that research, critical analysis is really important, so I don't have the answers to that, but it's something that probably does need to look at. Working with our educators then, just very quickly, suggestions for our educators that they facilitate as opposed to instruct, that they look at the talents and views and expertise of the full class. They begin with reflection for us in the Explore and Create, looking at individual reflections and then questions. Time for questions at the beginning. Everyone should participate and be included. All abilities should shine, and that we blend the learning, so different types of learning. And also, I mentioned earlier about not fearing controversial issues. So that's the kind of advice we give for our educators working with young people. And I'll finish with a video and then just one small piece. I said about student voice, it's just a comment from a young person who was involved in this video. This is the Donaghy's and they're explaining their upcycling project.
Our YSI project is Don't Throw Away, Give Away, we're upcycling items to give to the homeless. Our project is important because there are thousands of people homeless sleeping rough on the streets, and over the last year we've heard of a lot of people dying in the cold.
We want to help people who are going through the homeless crisis and are in a tough place at the moment.
And
it's really important that as the young people of Ireland we recognise this is going on and help in some way.
We've done some upcycling, we tied in with green schools. We made sanitary and wash bags for the homeless, we made food bags and made sandwiches for the homeless. We also got donations from local companies and upstyled stuff and gave them out as well.
Through the upcycling, the items that are actually created will be sold off and will raise money for inner city helping homeless.
The local businesses that donate sanitary items to the YSI project were Lidl, Dunn's and the Hilton Hotel.
Brennan's Bread, and also small shops around the community that donated vouchers so we could go out and buy stuff for the sandwiches.
We donated at least a couple of 100 sanitary packs.
We gave over 200 food bags filled with water, sandwiches, chocolate bars, tea and coffee.
People donated in our local McDonald's in Donmead, coffee, loyalty stickers, and we got over 80.
They came to us with an idea as to how we could use any of the surplus stickers off the coffee that the customers weren't using to facilitate them in giving free coffees to people who are in a condition of homelessness.
The teachers got in touch with us to say that the students, wanted to do sandwiches and sanitary packs and basically provide the stuff that we bring out on the street on a nightly basis. Where that's fantastic for us is all of the stuff we bring out nightly is stuff that we pay for ourselves. What Donaghy CS have done by getting involved and being so passionate about it, it's really having an impact right at the source. They're making a difference in someone's lives directly and you can't put a price on it.
I think it's important for the students to do this work because they learn so much about the different problems that people may face, and it also gives them so much confidence.
It pushes them out of their comfort zone, they become motivated and they actually stand up for what they believe in.
Fantastic work going on, fantastic project. I can't commend it high enough.
The YSI teacher Miss Cunningham and the grade school teacher Miss Riley have helped them so much, and I just want to say a big thank you from everyone in the class.
Thanks to Miss Cunningham and Miss Riley.
And I'll just finish, Keely, who was featured in the video, actually wrote an article around Generation Z. And I'll show you. So she's saying we're looked down on by older generations and we're not given the chance to show who we are, and they want to change this misconception. So I'm not sure if you can read it there, but I'll just read it out here. She says, we feel ignored. Often we feel ignored because we have no life experience, but actually we have a lot to contribute. The world is constantly changing and we're all changing with it. We want to be listened to and to be taken seriously. And the generalisation piece is important. Being part of Generation Z gives people a narrow view of people our age. We're often looked down upon by older generations because we are not given the chance to show who we really are. Being part of Young Social Innovators helps us to challenge this misconception and allows our voices to be heard. Gives us a platform to speak out about our creative ideas and to change the world for good. So it's really important, we spoke about it earlier, the individualism versus generalisation, just to be careful that we don't generalise. And then I'll just leave you one thing. A generation gap will always be inevitable.
Very much. It was really, really interesting. Actually, I had no idea what the amount of work that was going on in the secondary schools. I suppose you've left it, and our own kids haven't got to that stage yet. So there's a massive gap in my understanding and knowledge of. And yet we're working with these students coming into our doors here, but don't know necessarily where they've come from and what they've been doing. So that was really interesting to be aware of more some of that. This was after Emer's session this morning. I think the sessions were perfectly in the right order because it gave me more of an understanding of the students that we were talking about there. So it's a great presentation. Thank you very, very much. Any questions for Edel? Just one here.
I'm just curious, in the reflection process, how prevalent were their kind of comments on how they benefited in terms of their own self-esteem and how they benefit psychologically, I suppose, from being involved in this project?
So
very strong.
To be honest, we're just starting that research process now. But we did a pilot of it last year, and there was movement in improvement. But it is that perception of their self-esteem. So it's kind of a distance travelled where it's serving at the beginning and at the end. But one of the challenges we have is because generally YSI takes part in transition year, there are other influences as well. But it seems to be working. Yeah, definitely students feel a heightened sense of self-esteem at the end. But it seems to be working, but we should have further research from this year on. We're actually just having it analysed at the moment.
I just would be really interested to take some measures maybe before they involve in these programs.
Yes.
And then to re-measure it when they
Yeah, and actually one of our challenges is just getting the data. That so we would work through, we generally work through the teachers, but to get the data is difficult. Unfortunately, the reality in certain schools is just the facility to actually do something as simple as an online survey. They're you know, we're hearing the reality of it, but I mean, our dream would be to have a full research project around it. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments on what you've seen there?
Thanks, Edel. Really great presentation, you know. I'm just thinking out loud here now, you know, what I've seen. Is there any connection that can be leveraged from what you guys are doing at secondary school level with third level now, like? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a question that we get asked a lot. Yes, I mean, in reality, we don't have the resources as YSI to embark on that, but definitely, for example, the alumni, Jackie and Josie in that missing persons project, they're in third year in UCC. If somehow, I mean, we'd be willing to work with third level students, absolutely, or more so we facilitate, so it would be, for example, maybe connecting certain schools with third level students. We'd be very open to it because the whole community base should be really working on it. The leaving cert is a huge issue for us. I mean, in the work I do, I love transition.
The leaving cert is a huge issue for education.
Yeah. And that's the reality that what we have. So we have those Ditcher Carbon Cupprate students are in 5th year, really engaged. And unfortunately, I don't know next year what will happen. But yes, so we would see opportunity. It should happen.
Great. I'll connect with you, yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Those projects are filtered down through the schools though, where the next upcoming transition. I know they have their own issues they want to look at, but it's a shame to see stuff being dropped.
And that's why we started this Elevate program, and we only started this year gone, where we could kind of sustain those projects. And it is to be honest, it's a resource thing for us is that we have our senior action program. It's the balance between the youth-led and sustaining a big project. But we have had, for example, which project? Oh, the missing persons was 2 years. That was, you know, they got the commemoration the day it was in the 2nd year of the project. But no, there would be a culture of YSI in some of the schools as well. I didn't mention it, but YSI Week, it happens in April each year. It's a celebration. We encourage the schools to have something in the school to celebrate social innovation and then let us know about it. So now that we've introduced the junior, we're seeing a more whole school approach to social innovation, which is quite exciting. But yeah, we're hoping that the future looks good.
Yeah, no more than, I suppose, Ashley that's been implemented in the junior years of the school, it would be just such a fabulous initiative for the government to implement, and whoever are in our colleges and third level that have missed out on this is hugely beneficial for, you think that you might be aiming towards something
we are lobbying. It wouldn't be my role, but yes, I mean, for example, Rachel actually was involved, or the CEO was involved in founding a Focus Ireland with Sister Stan as well, so she's lobbying the government. If we can get the resources, we want this to happen. It's funding. Funding is the issue. That's the reality.
Businesses would be interested in these ideas.
And again, I suppose CSR, we often get offered volunteering time, and we do things called innovation exchange. We have other workshops that I didn't mention. For example, we have innovation exchanges. What we have in AbbVie, a pharmaceutical company, we've had local schools come in, explain their innovation, their process, and then the staff members would exchange their ideas and innovation back. So again, there's opportunity there, but money is the thing really for us to stay operating. But yes, this again, and again maybe it's the third year, or third level through to industry. And the mentoring, I mean, I mentioned the importance of mentoring, that goes across the board.
Just kind of, I suppose, touching in on the research as well, and that, and going back to, have you any kind of feedback from the teachers about what participation levels and we think the classes are and so on, because obviously the ones you show us
Yes,
they're all very enthusiastic and brilliant and they break their heart with what they're doing.
We have a certification program for our teachers, so I mentioned they are YSI guides, so we have an award if they're 5 years a guide, 10 years a guide, so say those 5-year and 10-year guides, we get a lot of information back from them. They say that each year can be different. It depends on that cohort of students. How YSI works for them is if the students are connected to the issue, if they feel passionate about it. At the beginning stages, they may be educated by the other students around it, but they do say it can be different. We suggest, say if there's 2 projects in the making in the class, we suggest that they go with the 2 projects, but then in reality, if it's only one teacher who's available to support the team, they have to think about that as well. But definitely the connection to the issue is really important.
It's interesting from a kind of society perspective, people who are socially innovative, to try and engender that culture a bit earlier and get more people involved.
And what is really exciting about the junior is that the fear, they don't have the fear, which is great. We can be cynical and we think of the barriers, and so we're hopeful, and especially with all this research about how great Gen Z are going to be or are.
There's a very high expectation.
I know.
So listen, thanks a million again, Edel, thank you. We have just 20 minutes until we break for lunch. So we'd run around the room and just get you to introduce yourselves. Now you have something to say. You've had 2 sessions.